Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Alvin Gehring and Troy Knight, and we're with the MaidCentral team. And we want to talk to you today about a program that we've developed at MaidCentral. We call it Smart Payments. It's 2025. You know, everybody's doing payments differently now, and I guess this really kind of evolved over COVID, where um, most retailers have trained consumers to accept the reality that if they're using their credit card, they need to be paying the merchant account fees. There's like an upcharge on that. And that's basically what smart payments is. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that in the house cleaning industry. That smart payments is a way where we can basically take advantage of where the consumer's mind is now and add an extra, point, half, 2 points plus of revenue to the bottom line, which could be another 10, 20% increase in profit or more. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about how that works, some examples of how it's been implemented, and how easy it is to do, and how you can make a lot more money in your business without having to clean any more homes. We believe this is the easiest money you will ever make. A little bit of history. I've been doing this for about 30 years. So when we started in the house cleaning business, we didn't even take credit cards initially. It was all cash and checks. Very time consuming. There's risk involved in that. Sometimes checks bounced. Sometimes you would lose checks. Wind up finding out, a week later that somebody had it in their pocket and it got washed. You had to go back and get it. Cash would disappear. So cash and checks really isn't the way that we want to be doing it in 2025, especially given the fact that our technicians are basically getting all their work instructions and managing the business on the phone, and we don't even see them every day in a lot of cases. We want to do this electronically, which brings us to credit cards, a much more convenient and time efficient way of doing it, a safer way of doing it. But there's fees involved. The rack rate on credit card processing is usually 2.9% plus maybe another 30 cents per transaction. So that's like over 3% of revenue that a lot of companies are giving up for their credit card processing. It can be a manual process. And in the early days, there were machines that you would key in the credit card numbers. There were some security issues and stuff like that associated with it as well. Using MaidCentral today, running credit cards, all that, it's very secure and it's very easy. But you're giving up a lot of revenue, especially relative to what that revenue would look like if it was in your bottom line profit. Which brings us to smart payments. There's another way you can get your customers to basically be paying that fee through what we, I guess industry generic term is surcharging. And part of smart payments, the overall program, we're going to give you other options that you can offer to your customers if they don't want to pay that fee, that you're still paying electronically. It's costing you a whole lot less than what it was if it were a credit card. And it's kind of a win-win. So you're giving them options, keeping the churn down, and putting a lot more money directly to profit. So, Alvin, no, Troy, I'm sorry. Could you give us a little bit of more detail as to what smart payments are?
Sure. So you mentioned credit card fees, you mentioned surcharging, and when we talk about smart payments, it's really everything you see on the page here. It's the ability where you can take a fee, add that to the customer's invoice when they pay their credit card, when they pay that invoice. We automatically do that. We add that to the invoice. We make sure that it's compliant because everything cannot receive a surcharge. Debit cards can't. ACH cannot receive a surcharge. So we're compliant in a way that we're able to pass those fees on in the form of a surcharge to those credit card users. But as you mentioned, Tom, we give them choices. A lot of people some people may not want to pay the surcharge. They may not want to accept the additional fee. That's when you have the ability to convert them to ACH. And that's where it's a bank-to-bank transfer. There's no additional steps once it's set up on their part, no additional steps. on your part as the business owner when you process those invoices. And that's one way that your clients can avoid those surcharges. They can pay through ACH, lowers the cost, so they're not paying the surcharge, but it also lowers the cost for your business where, a credit card fee is typically in that 2.8, 3% range. ACH is going to be 1%. So even if you just move them to ACH, it's a savings. Like I said earlier, we automate those processes. We automatically apply the surcharge when it's appropriate to do so, when it's compliant to do so. No additional steps involved on the invoicing side, no additional steps for the client. And we've also included, we'll look at the end, a how-to guide. We've implemented this. Many companies have implemented this. So we've developed some documentation around the initial letter you can send out, questions you may be receiving, how you should answer those questions, objections you might be receiving from your customers, best way of handling those objections. And really it comes down to we're giving them a choice. We're going to apply that surcharge. But if they don't want that, there's a way for them to avoid that, still reducing the cost to you as a business owner. So really a lot of upside. And as you said earlier, it's really some of the easiest money you could make.
Very good. Why does it matter, Alvin?
So the biggest thing here is we're of course going to talk about kind of profit and, kind of the punishing side of credit card companies taking or credit card processors taking 3%. And that's 3% essentially straight to your bottom line that they're taking anytime a credit card is processed. So when we start talking about 3% of your revenue, that ends up being to sometimes 10, 20, even 30% of your bottom line profit. The big thing here that we're really going to stress and kind of talk about is being able to improve that profit without having to clean more homes, book more jobs, increase your ad spend and all of those things. And of course, we want it to be easy. Why is it easy? Well, of course, we talk about the automation. We're going to talk a lot about compliance today. Compliance is going to be a big part of this and making sure we're doing it the right way. Not only that, but we want to offer it in a fair way to both you and to your clientele where they have options to not pay it. And, as we were talking about ACH, debit card, we're seeing some other options as well, depending on what kind of payment methods you're willing to take. We also definitely want it to be transparent. We're not trying to hide it from your customers. We're not trying to make it punishing on them. We want to be clear why we're doing it and, allowing us to maintain, that high level of service that you and your clientele, you provide and your clientele enjoys. We want to make that fair and transparent to them as well. Not only that, it's going to be, and you'll see, it's going to be really easy to do. It's not a bunch of feature changes and invoice changes. It's kind of just like a flip of a switch. We let the clients know it can be turned on and then everything's automated through your invoice. It's going to know if it's a credit card. It's going to know if it's a debit card. It's going to know if it's ACH. And then you're going to circle back around to continuing to be compliant. It's also very professional. We're seeing it across multiple industries, not just now in the cleaning industry, but when you go out to a restaurant in a lot of places and you pay by credit card, you're seeing these fees. Large retail stores are pushing this fee down to clientele. So it is really just becoming commonplace, across the United States as a whole. I know it definitely happens to me in my region here in Denver. The kind of the final little bits here is going to be, it's very professional. It's very easy to do, of course. And with that professionalism, you're following suit of all the businesses around you. And it's the cost of doing business, so to speak. Easily scalable, that kind of circles back to automated. You're not having to add a bunch of things and check a bunch of boxes. It's just going to happen automatically. And then, of course, the last and most important thing is it's incredibly profitable. Again, we're seeing increases of bottom line profit from anywhere from 10 to 30%. straight to your bottom line, not having to clean more homes, which I know we all love. We can kind of turn that profit into a better business.
So the hidden cost of, the default payment setups, could you help us with this, Alvin?
Yeah, of course. So the standard rate is 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. Pretty easy for us to round that up to a solid 3%. So when you start taking 3%, just think of all the different credit card transactions you're doing, and 3% of that is just gone right away. 2.9% to 3%, sometimes higher than 3%, depending on which payment processor you're using. And it's a typical company, we would see maybe a 10% profit margin. If we're taking 3% of our total revenue and turning that into profit, then that's upwards of 20, 30% of a gain in your profit. And really where the numbers break down is every $500,000 of credit card processing you're doing, you're paying $15,000 in credit card fees. If we reduce that, say we get everyone on ACH, that's a total of $10,000 of savings. Say we do both the credit card, passing the credit card fee down, and some people are going to switch to ACH. Maybe some people stay with debit. We're seeing around, $11,800 worth of savings in there. Well, sorry, $10,800 on average in there. And that's for every $500,000 you do. So say you're doing $1 million through credit card processing a year or more. There's $20,000+ of straight profit, so-called sticking out of your couch cushions waiting to be grabbed. And it's like we said, it's going to be compliant, easy, professional. And that's what we really want to maintain, of course.
So if this were a company with a 10% profit margin, just by doing this, their profit margin went up to 12%. That would be like a 20% improvement in profit.
Yeah.
How did this work in Castle Keepers, Troy?
Yeah, well, it all sounds great, right? But how do you do it? What can we expect? So we did this in Castle Keepers. We did this in our Charleston location. We did this in our Greenville location. We implemented the automatic surcharging of those credit card fees. One thing that happened in our case that was a bit of a surprise, I will admit, is we lost no customers because of it. We were actually prepared to possibly lose a few customers, knowing that the profit we would make would more than offset if we lost a few clients. But we had 0 customers left, and I believe again that gets back to the fact that we gave them a choice. We didn't force it. If you want to pay by credit card, we're going to apply this fee. If they said no, they didn't want to do that or gave us some pushback, then we gave them other options to offset those fees. And that was pretty significant. In Greenville and Charleston, you can see, we had about 10% of our clients using ACH. Everyone else stayed on credit cards. So we still had over 90% of our clients using credit cards, accepting those fees. So it's not like a lot of pushback. A lot of clients are going to leave. They're not going to pay by credit card anymore. That was not the case. So after implementing smart payments in Charleston, we saw where our payment average was under 1.1%, about 0.86. And in Greenville, it was like right at 1% or 0.96. So if you're looking into comparing that to a 3% fee on credit cards, that's a 2% savings that we were able to realize in both locations. And this is similar to what we're seeing with other locations, other companies that are implementing smart payments, able to get those processing fees down to around 1%.
Yeah, and that 2% is of revenue. So in terms of profit increase, it's probably 10 times that much.
Exactly. That's 2% of your revenue going straight to our bottom line.
Of course, credit cards processing is a regulated industry. You've got the whole PCI compliance thing. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can actually, get fined a lot of money if you are, handling credit card information properly. the credit card, account, Visa, MasterCard, they have rules as well. States have various laws. So complying is important. And if you don't manage the compliance part of this, it really isn't a sound program. But the way that Smart Payments is built will take care of that. It checks all the compliance boxes. Can you speak to that, Alvin?
Yeah, of course. So as Tom was saying, very regulated industry, from PCI to Visa and MasterCard themselves and all the different credit card providers. There's really only one way to be compliant as we're doing this, and that's going to be through the credit card processor. Obviously, there's some states, Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, where their laws don't allow you to do this. And, your credit card processor is going to know if they're compliant. They are going to be more in touch with that side of things. On top of that, and we'll get to it later when we start talking about add-ons or rate modifiers, as we call them in MaidCentral. If you're applying it through that, there's no way to know if it's a debit card or a credit card. And that is not compliant. If you do add this surcharge onto a debit card, you are breaking the rules, so to speak. So there's also going to be caps depending on your state or your local bylaws. And then the credit card company may have a cap on how much you can charge as well. So ensuring, on top of that, making sure that it's visible. You need to have a memo on your invoice. It needs to be displayed in the right area. It can't be a line item, but it has to be at the bottom of the invoice. And we'll definitely show you what that looks like here in a bit. But again, kind of the big thing to stress here about compliance is the only way that you can be fully compliant against all the rules and regulations from both the credit card processing, the state, is doing this directly through your payment processor. So if you are doing this through MaidCentral, through rate modifiers, through add-ons or anything like that, you'll definitely want to reach out, and we're gonna want to have that conversation about compliance and how can we get this to be more compliant, so you don't get in trouble or anything like that. And this is really one of the biggest, most important things that is here is all the profit and all of that is great, but how do we maintain compliance and professionalism in the industry?
We have a question here from Robin. He wants to know, did we see more check payments as a result of the change? With Smart Payments, we do not even offer checks or cash as a payment option. We lead with, we'll take your card, and there's the part of Smart Payments. The surcharge is going to be there, but everybody charges that. If the customer says, "Well, I don't want to pay the surcharge," then we give them the option of ACH. So that's the optionality we provide. But the Smart Payments playbook, we don't even let checks or cash be part of the consideration side.
Yep. And in the Castle Keepers example we spoke of earlier, we don't accept checks or cash currently. When we went through this process, as Tom pointed out, we gave them the option of debit card, ACH, and that was it. So no one converted to checks, no one converted to cash. No clients left as a result, because we did give them that option of debit card and ACH payments.
So kind of in the spirit of compliance and do's and don'ts, Alvin, can you walk us through what a good invoice looks like?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start with add-ons in MaidCentral. Add-ons, rate modifiers, as we call them. If you kind of look on the invoice, it's a little small over there to the right. You'll see like the residential cleaning, maintenance, and then the tip. If you're doing a rate modifier, your surcharge shows up there. One, that's not compliant. And two, there's going to be tons of opportunities for error, not only when billing, but when doing a rate increase, as an example. If you're doing a rate increase through MaidCentral and you rate increase and you don't include the add-ons in that rate increase, the rate goes up, but the surcharge doesn't. So not only are you not compliant, but then you're only charging them maybe 2% instead of the full 3% of that fee. And there's a lot of ways to make mistakes or errors when doing it through a rate modifier or add-on. So we definitely do not want you guys doing add-ons and rate modifiers. The biggest reason there is compliance. A big part of that compliance is, you'll see at the bottom of this invoice, and Tom, it'll blow up here. there needs to be a memo that explains that a credit card surcharge of X amount applies to payments made via these credit cards. And then it needs to be, as I was saying, in a specific place on that invoice. And on the right side, you'll see the credit card surcharge is its own item at the bottom of the total and not as part of the actual cleaning. Depending on your state, this credit card surcharge may need to be included in tax as well. So we're going to take care of that for you on the compliance side of things. The memo and all of this is going to be automatically added, including when we talk about when they're booking online through your online booking tool. We need to let them know when they're inputting credit card information that if they are going to pay by credit card, a fee may apply. We'll take care of that all for you automatically as well. So again, just kind of harping on that compliance. If you are doing this through add-ons, please, we'll have some contact information. Please reach out to me, and we want to get that fixed and make sure you're in compliance.
So part of the implementation part that make this really easy is to move the tokens over from, if you're not using our credit card processor, to move over to, from Stripe or Auth.net or whoever you're using. Troy, could you explain how this works?
Sure. So your credit card company, that the processor there, they often don't have the option to automate and implement smart payments. So the processor we're using, we have the ability to do that. But what has to happen is you don't want to go get all of those credit cards again. You don't want to get credit card numbers when you change processors. So whenever they move those credit cards, when they transfer that process of transferring those from one processor to another, they refer to that as a token transfer. The token transfer typically is not free. There's usually a fee that is associated with that. We've seen where that fee can be up to $250. So to help with the process, to help with those, cover those fees during the month of October and on through the month of November, MaidCentral is going to cover up to $250 of that token transfer fee for you. So we're trying to make it easy for you to transfer. We've got a team that can work with you, and we're willing to cover up to $250 of those fees, so we don't have to go ask clients for credit card numbers again.
Something important here too is as people are switching over, in order to implement smart payments, if you're on Stripe or Authorized, you will have to switch over a payment processor. And the biggest question that I get asked, and the main one I'm asked when talking to people, is how hard is this? What are the steps involved? Really, when we talk about the token transfer, that is the biggest step. We're going to help you with that. There is usually a fee involved. We're going to cover that up to $250. So it's kind of a really easy, almost automated process to do. You're not going to have to reach out to clients, and then it shouldn't cost, for most companies, it won't cost you to move over as well. Robin kind of asked the question here, what does it normally cost to transfer over? The token transfer is usually what it would cost. That token transfer fee is going to depend on the size of your business, how many credit cards you have, what company you're with, Stripe or Authorized. So we are covering up to $250 of that. So it really just depends. So we can't give you a specific price, but $250 covers most, if not all of it.
So the bottom line is, if you currently are paying the merchant account fees for your credit card processing, you don't need to, and you shouldn't be in 2025. Improve your bottom line profit 10, 20% or more through smart payments. We have a page on the MaidCentral website. I'll drop the link in chat. It's maidcentral.com/smart-payments-guide. And it kind of gives you all the information. If you want more detailed information, you can send an email to either Alvin or Troy at maidcentral.com. If you're not using MaidCentral and you would like to know more about it, go to maidcentral.com/demo, and we'll be glad to do a demo for you and give you more details.
Don't be afraid to go to that smart payments guide on MaidCentral. One of the top links, you'll have the opportunity to schedule a meeting. If you'd prefer a more in-depth meeting, you'll schedule a 15-minute meeting with me. I'd love to answer your questions and get you working towards the right compliant way to do this.
Very good. Well, I think that pretty much sums up what we wanted to share regarding smart payments. We appreciate everybody's time. We're going to go ahead and call this a wrap. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.